Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So it's that time of year again, college football playoff season. We're seeing some absolutely incredible athletes leaving it all on the field. Today we're going to zero in on the FCS Playoffs, where the competition is just off the charts. But you know, behind all the big hits and highlight reel touchdowns, there's a completely different game being played. One that's all about dollars and cents.
So in this explainer, we're basically tackling two big questions. First up, who are the absolute beasts still in the hunt for a title? And second, what's the real price tag on building one of these powerhouse teams? I think the answers are going to change the way you watch the game.
See, the thing is, if you really want to understand what it takes to hoist that championship trophy, you've got to look way beyond the scoreboard. Yeah, skill and strategy are huge, but there's also a ton of money involved. That road to glory is paved with a lot more than just raw talent, trust me. Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the players in what I'm calling the playoff gauntlet. Then we'll zoom in on a top team with anatomy of a contender. After that, it's time to follow the money, see how these teams are funded, explore the massive financial divide in A Tale of Two Leagues. And finally, we'll talk about what it all means for the future of the game.
All right, first things first, let's talk about the players. We're down to the final 8 teams in the FCS championship hunt, which means we are looking at the absolute cream of the crop. These are the guys carrying the hopes and dreams of their entire schools on their shoulders right now.
Let's kick things off with the quarterbacks, the leaders of the offense. And this group is just stacked. But according to the experts over at Sports Illustrated, Montana State's Justin Lamson is the guy at the top of the list. He's got it all. He's calm under pressure. He's got pinpoint accuracy, and he can use his feet to get out of trouble. Bottom line, he's the player you want with the ball in his hands when the game's on the line.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This quote from Timothy Rosario at Sports Illustrated says it all. In the absolute pressure cooker of the playoffs, having a guy you can trust is everything. And Lamson has definitely earned that trust, especially after the show he put on against his biggest rival, Montana.
Now, what about the ground game? Well, the top spot for running backs goes to Montana, and it's pretty much all thanks to this guy, Eli Gilman. Seriously, people are calling him the best all-around running back in the entire country. And when you look at his stats, nearly 1,400 yards and 19 touchdowns, it's kind of hard to argue. Right behind him, you've got the 1-2 punch from Montana State, which just proves they can beat you in a bunch of different ways. You know, speaking of Montana State, let's just stick with them for a minute. Let's use them as a case study. How in the world does a team get this good? Let's take a look at the anatomy of a real, true championship contender.
I mean, just look at their season so far. A 12-2 record is impressive enough, but going a perfect 8-0 in a really tough conference? That's insane. Plus, they got those huge, nail-biting wins when it mattered most. To put it simply, the Bobcats have been an absolute wrecking ball this year.
And here's why they're so scary good. It's not just one or two superstars. Their whole roster is just loaded with talent. I mean, check this out. They have the #1 ranked quarterback group in the playoffs, and the #1 offensive line, and the #1 defensive line. Oh, and the #1 safeties. That's what a championship team looks like on paper. Just wow. Which, of course, brings us to the multi-million-dollar question. A team this stacked doesn't just fall out of the sky. So what's the secret sauce? What does it actually take to build a program this dominant and keep it that way? Well, the answer goes way beyond just good coaching. And that, my friends, is where we get to the other side of the coin, the money. Because let's be real, in today's college sports world, you just can't talk about winning championships without talking about funding. To really get what's going on, you gotta follow the money. Okay, let's break this down real simple. Athletic departments get their cash from two main places. On one side, you've got generated revenue. Think of this as the money the team makes for itself, from things like ticket sales, TV deals, merchandise, and big-time donations. On the other side is allocated revenue. This is more like an allowance from the university, money that comes from student fees or the school's general budget. And trust me, this difference is the key to this whole story.
And this is where college football splits into two completely different worlds. We're about to dive into a tale of two leagues, the big-budget FBS schools you see on primetime TV every week, and the smaller, but just as passionate, FCS schools like Montana State.
So for these FCS teams, the ones we're watching in the playoffs, take a look at this. A massive 58% of their funding comes directly from the university. That's this huge slice of the pie right here.
It means more than half their entire budget is that allowance money we just talked about. Things like ticket sales and TV rights, they're a much smaller piece.
Now, flip it. Let's look at the big dogs, the top-tier FBS schools. For them, the picture is completely different. A giant 35% of their cash comes from media rights. That's the billion-dollar TV deals. Another 24% comes from wealthy donors. These programs are basically self-sufficient, money-making machines.
So let's put some hard numbers on this. The median total expenses for one of those top FBS schools in a single year is $85.7 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. That kind of cash pays for everything, from coaches who make millions to training facilities that look more like five-star resorts.
And what about an FCS school? Their median total expenses are $22.1 million. Yeah, the difference is just staggering. The big schools are outspending them by nearly 4 times. That creates a massive advantage when it comes to recruiting players, hiring coaches, and just having the best resources.
And if you want to see the most critical difference, it is right here on this chart. Remember generated revenue, the money a team makes on its own? Well, the median FBS school generates $71 million. The median FCS school, just $5.4 million. That's not a gap, my friends. That is a canyon. They are playing on completely different financial fields. So where does this all leave us? We've got incredible talent and passion on the field, but we've also got these stark, almost unbelievable financial realities off the field. What does it all mean for the future of the sport we all love?
Okay, let's just quickly recap the big points here. Number 1, the FCS playoffs are packed with legit high-level talent, and teams like Montana State are absolute powerhouses. But, and it's a huge but, there's this enormous financial canyon between the FBS and FCS, and that gap affects everything. The bottom line is, FCS teams need their schools to help them compete, while the top FBS programs are basically giant corporations.
And all of this leaves us with a really deep question to chew on. In a world where billion-dollar TV deals seem to be reshaping everything, what does it truly mean to be a champion anymore? Is it just about having the biggest budget, or is it about the heart and the grit that we see from these FCS teams every single week? But that's just what I've been thinking about. I really want to know what you think. Is this money gap a huge problem for college football? Does it change how you feel about a championship? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to get a conversation started. And that's all for this one. If you found this interesting and you want more breakdowns like this, do me a huge favor, hit that like button, share this with a friend who loves college football, and of course subscribe to my channel so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks so much for watching.